Let's get on with the show.
Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. On this episode, I got to speak to the phenomenal animator and British voice actor, Christopher Woodworth. We talked about how Christopher started as an animator and he transitioned into a voice actor. We also talked about learning American accents and his thoughts of others trying to imitate the British accent. He had some great tips for your business as a voiceover, life as an animator, and more. So sit back and enjoy another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. And now coming on the show, I'm super excited to have my next guest. We have talked over social media like most of my guests. I think we've duetted things on TikTok. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Woodworth, welcome to Behind the Audition podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. So it's nighttime where you're at, and it's mid-afternoon here. You're over in UK, correct?
Yes, yeah, right in the northwest of England, a little town called Wigan. But with today's technology, managing to reach the world.
This is awesome. This is awesome. So you are the first guest, second guest, or the UK. And it's always great to kind of touch base with another voice actor that's, not in the same country. So I'm super excited to have you. Let's go back in time and let's talk about, what you were doing before voiceover and how you got into the industry.
Right. Okay. Well, I'd say growing up, I was always just very randomly doing impressions, just for fun. I was always fascinated with how people like Robin Williams and people on TV, could actually change their voices and emote that way. And I just kind of felt like it was something that I was using as an outlet. It was just fun, but I was focusing on a career as an animator. So over years of study, became an animator in video games. And during my time as an animator, I actually found that they had a thing where they weren't letting people within the company audition for character roles. And I wasn't even thinking about it, at the time, but part of me thought that, that'd be kind of cool, to do Lego character voices, as well. And yeah, because the voice actors are really good, at that. I think eventually when I decided I wanted to go into it part-time, they started looking at that more seriously and closely, seeing what I could actually do. And because I had taken the courses and everything. So now they're starting to become more open to it, even with future games. And they kind of figured, hey, you know what? If we could do this, it would be so good to utilize somebody within the company, even for that. So watch this space. We'll see.
That is awesome. So you got to do, you get to work with animation. I think that is one of the coolest things. I've had some guests on here who dabble in animation as well. Is that a very tedious thing to work with?
You know what? I'll be honest, to start with, when I was starting to get into animation, I was worried about that. Is it tedious? Is it going to be tedious? Is it the novelty going to wear off at a certain point? But because it's an unusual mix of like acting, that you need to kind of get to grips with, and movements, because you're learning so much over years about the human movement or even the movements of vehicles and things like that. It's like you are basically creating life. It's like you're playing God, but in a digital world. And when you actually see something even small that you create just coming alive on screen, I can't really describe that, the feeling of that. It's just incredible. So you get so passionate about that movement that it doesn't seem to take patience anymore. And that's how it's like for all of us at the moment. We're just so much into it. Yeah, into the character.
That is very cool. So how much time do you spend still creating animation? How are you like 50% creating animation, 50% voiceover? What would you say you're at right now?
I would say probably more like well, 70-80% animation, and the rest of the time is voiceover. Even if it goes into like late nights, I kind of keep it on the outside,
Hmm.
of my day job. But I know that over time that's going to change, and
Hmm.
they know that when things properly take off, and I get really big opportunities in the voiceover world,
Hmm.
I'll move to Flex, and have the best of both worlds. But either way, I'm just very blessed that the studio just gives me their full support, and they're very excited to see what comes out of this. Yeah.
That is great. And so do you get to like meet people that are, work for like Star Wars and like for those that like behind the scenes, or is it more or less, they tell you what they need from you and then you just create that project, voice that project? Do you get to meet anybody that works for the project?
Oh, so you mean like the Lego video games just in general? Yeah,
Yeah.
like Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess not me personally. I don't get to meet anybody like behind that project, like obviously because it's paired with Lucas
Yeah.
and Disney.
Yeah.
But the lead animators, the people who have to directors,
Hmm.
um yeah, they get to communicate closely with whichever company studio we're working with, whether it's Pixar or something like that.
Hmm.
And I still remember back when we worked on a different Lego Star Wars game. It was literally just Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. The people who were directing me, they were actually constantly going to London to do um voice directing for the original cast from the movie because they were doing
Oh,
the
wow.
voices for us.
Yeah.
So so that was just incredible. Just getting to direct John Boyega and all of that, and they'll tell stories, about what they're like. Yeah. So
Yeah, that is very cool. So yeah, I noticed you have one of the coolest voices, like the regular speaking voice. Otherwise, as Americans, I'm sure you. I don't. Does this annoy you when somebody tries to use a UK accent and they have no business using that accent? Because I have people saying, "Hey, check out my UK accent." I'm like, that sounds more Australian than it does UK. So is that something that bugs you when somebody tries to impersonate a UK accent and that's not even good at all?
the only time it kind of bugs me is when somebody is doing it to me, but in an exaggerated way, where it's very over the top, where it
Yeah.
kind of feels like they're a cartoon that should be wearing a top hat, as we do. you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, where they just kind of go, "Hello, Chris, nice to meet you," or something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, where they kind of do the whole Dick Van Dyke thing. I don't know,
Hmm.
but that's the only time where it starts to bug me, and I kind of say, "Yeah, yeah, we all sound like that." But
Absolutely.
yeah, but other times though, when people, from my friends from the US do, tries to do it, some of them in particular are really good. They surprise me. They really have a great ear. And some of them, if they're a bit off the mark, because I can hear
Hmm.
when something is off, my attitude is like, okay, let's work on this. You're getting
Yeah.
there. I want to help you out. So yeah.
Absolutely. So have you ever thought about coaching somebody, like, how to, to do a proper UK accent? I mean, have you ever, had
Um,
somebody reach out and say, "Hey, can you work on that with me? Can you coach me?" Because
hmm.
I think that'd be an opportunity for you, don't you think?
I think so, yeah, because I mean, even though straight away I don't really consider myself like an expert coach,
Yeah.
because it kind
Yeah.
of feels like I need to try and find a way of breaking it down. A couple of times I've had maybe somebody in the industry just maybe message me and just kind of say, "Hey, do you have a moment just to kind of like read something out?"
Hmm.
Because I've got a voice actor who's really trying to just establish this British accent, for this
Hmm.
role. How
Hmm.
would you say this, or something? And I
Right.
would see if I can get it to them in time. Or I've collaborated with a voice actor friend of mine, in the US, in a clubhouse room in the
Hmm.
audio networking app Clubhouse, where a few times we've hosted a room. People can come in and practice their American or British dialect,
Yeah.
and we would take it in turns, like helping them out, like
Hmm.
yeah, my friend helping them with the American side, me with the British side. And yeah, so that's what I've been doing slowly anyway. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, I mean, you have a great American accent too. What did you work on to get that down?
Oh, the American accent, it's something that I feel that I keep trying to refine, and yeah, try and practice it every chance I get because there are lots of opportunities with that accent.
Yeah.
I think to start with, it was more things I grew up watching. Just I would listen to it quite often, see if I could replicate it, trying to do it at times not in an over the top way.
Yeah.
I think I did try one single dialect like taster class, and a really cool way that he said that you can kind of practice is maybe looking at different things that are in the room, like in front of you. You just kind of talk for a while. You start naming things in the room, you fill things in, but
Hmm.
you see if you can just kind of keep it going. And so over time, I can't help but heighten my voice a little bit, but now I just try and just keep it like around the same pitch, and see if I can over time just kind of rattle it off, and just get the pronunciation right, or pronunciation, however
Yeah.
you say it, and kind of say that I got my my MacBook right in front of me, got my iPhone, and yeah, it just kind of rolls off, kind of like that.
Yeah, absolutely. See,
Yeah.
that is awesome. Because when you hear accents, of course in US we have, New York, we have Texas, we have, South, we have East Coast, and then there's so many different,
Mm.
East Coast accents. You can go New York, Boston. Which one gets your attention the most? That you're like, I want to work on this accent. Which one do you try to work on the most? Because you, like I said, you work on commercial stuff too, correct?
Well, I actually don't. I think I'm kind of getting towards that. At the moment. I'm getting like help from one or two voice actor friends in my
Mm-hmm.
commercial reads.
Mm-hmm.
It is natural that as soon as you kind of get in the booth, you put the headphones on, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of even do a commercial audition. You
Mm-hmm.
kind of go into commercial mode, like that,
Yeah.
and it's just trying to get it down to like one person to talk to,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
improving on that. But yeah, the accent that kind of sticks out to me at the moment, because I'm well aware there's so many accents in the US, but
Mm-hmm.
I would like to kind of keep trying to establish like a New York accent. I can
Yeah.
kind of do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, because I know that there are a few different ones in New York alone, and I think at times when I do, when I kind of try and do a New York accent, I try and make it a little more punchy, a little more purposeful. It's like give me a cup of coffee, like that, and try and get that out.
Yeah.
Use keywords. But I just really find it fascinating, even when I did go to New York a few years ago, and it was kind of like honey to the ears. Like, okay, I need to keep hearing people now. It's great.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I've talked to past guests who, everywhere you go, you hear new character voices. There's an accent that's not the same, or you'll hear something. Ooh, I like that accent. I want to work on that. Let's talk about being directed on a project. What is the process like? Sitting in the room and having the director, getting you ready. Is there like a warm up or a practice to get? Because sometimes those characters are excited and you have to make sure you're moving around. Is there an exercise you guys work on before you start recording?
In terms of being directed, like animating,
Mm-hmm.
in like a Star Wars, if you'd like to know
Mm-hmm.
about that, we are encouraged to maybe look at the scene, from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm given like maybe one of the, for instance, one of the classic scenes in the movies I was given to replicate was the first time you see the Millennium Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, when Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan and the droids are, yeah, just kind of come and see that for the first time. It's like, what a piece of junk, like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but basically it's like director basically sits down with you, and kind of goes through this layout, because all of
Mm-hmm.
the cameras are set up and everything, and yeah, in the system, and you're looking at this, and maybe the director has one or two ideas,
Mm-hmm.
as well, of what he would like for you to add in there, what would be nice. But at the same time, we do have a little bit of freedom to add our own little bit of magic on there,
Mm-hmm.
like our own little bit of humor. And even though these are uh, Lego characters that kind of have the same structure, um, I mean, you got like Luke Skywalker, and then you've got Han Solo. They are very different characters. They're not going to walk the same. They're not going to talk the same, and they're not just even going to stand the same.
Mm-hmm.
I animated Han Solo. I mean, when you look at him in some of the cutscenes, you probably see that he has that Harrison Ford slightly talking to the side of his mouth sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
He has a bit of a swagger. He has his hip jutted out, and and everything. So it's
Is that from you watching the movies? Like actually, you studied the originals, and is that what gave you the idea with the side talk and all that?
yeah, because I would look at how
That's
yeah, he
authentic. I would say
talks.
that's really good
Oh,
idea.
because we try to be as authentic as possible,
Yeah.
with the game. And yeah, but then when you really do get to know the characters like even more, like
Mm-hmm.
earlier on when you started to work on this game,
Mm-hmm.
you start to treat them as such, with every cutscene that you work on, even if it's like some of the small droids, or
Mm-hmm.
like maybe a little nervous or something like that. You start to be very true to the characters. You want to
Yeah.
be, yeah, give it the respect it deserves.
Absolutely. So I see you blowing it up on TikTok. This is like the platform that I would probably say what 2-3 years and voiceover really started getting on there. I mean, I was on there probably it's been around for a while, but when I went on there like probably 3-4 years ago, there wasn't too many voice actors on that platform. Now it all over. Yeah. And you really took off. What's some tips and tricks to those like myself who want to build a bigger following on there, to network with other voice actors, production houses, what have you, because we have a great, like, I guess you'd say a great amount of voice actors who network together on there, duets, what have you, voiceover auditions and all that. What was your tips and tricks to building your following on that platform?
Right. Okay. Well, when I first joined TikTok, first of all, it was during the first lockdown in the UK. So I was, I mean, now I'm living in a house, but then I was living in this top floor like apartment,
Mm-hmm.
very isolated, and I was using it as a creative outlet
Mm-hmm.
and doing like bits of comedy or one or two magic tricks and things like that, just things that amused me. But when I started getting into voice acting, what naturally came, I mean, not necessarily just on TikTok, but it was the whole networking aspect of things, just even through Clubhouse and everything. And so that's how I kind of gathered together all of these voice acting friends. So I'd say that's where duets started for voice actors, like voice acting challenge. You'd
Mm-hmm.
see, yeah, one or two of the OGs of that, just kind of make that a trend.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even have my own setup yet. I didn't have a microphone or anything, but I would start doing, trying out one or two of the classic like voice acting challenges, the different types of commercials. But just even in my you just with my headphones in and what I would do, I would I wouldn't just focus on like just whatever voice it was I was doing if it was animation or something. I would physicalize it. I would really get into it, so you're kind of in a way showing people insight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think from there, when it came to kind of getting my own equipment and uh, just wanting to take this up a notch, I found that yeah, I had a video go viral because I formed one of the collaborations I actually formed with a voice actor. It just went crazy because it was Disney, it was Tarzan, and nobody expects anything to go viral.
Right.
You can never be prepared for it. Um, but apparently people like Disney, so
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how that happened. And but I think in terms of really building up your following and wanting, I mean, encouraging people to keep coming back, as well, you got to, in a way, give something back. You've got to give uh, value,
Mm-hmm.
kind of crush any misconceptions,
Mm-hmm.
that people may have of voice acting. And just actually respond to comments as well. I mean, if you happen to have a video go viral and you get like a zillion comments,
Hmm.
you don't have to respond to every single one, only the ones that are respectful,
Right,
but
right,
just engage, as well. And you can actually do video responses to certain comments where people ask genuinely good questions.
right.
How do you get into voice acting, or what was your backstory? Like that.
Yeah,
And then they really appreciate that and they start to support you, as well. And
that is awesome.
check out some of their videos as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, marketing over in the UK. So, talk about how you build your business over there. Over in the United States, we have. I'm sure you do LinkedIn as well, but we focus mostly, local here. We have a lot. I'm in North Carolina, so I focus on a lot of local businesses in North Carolina. Being over in the UK, do you do the same strategy by reaching out to a lot of businesses in your area as well? Like, businesses like that want to maybe put an ad on social media in the UK. Do you do the same thing over there as well? I'm just curious of how that works over there.
I mean, I can't really speak like for other people, but I haven't necessarily reached out to businesses. Yeah, I don't think people do. What they really do is, I mean, after they have really established themselves, like with a reel and a yeah, a website. I think it is literally about I guess they try and do things like word of mouth and just really just joining as many
Hmm.
like voice acting like groups as possible, like
Hmm.
even via like Facebook. They try to connect with agencies, and things like that, so they don't seem to kind of go straight to different businesses, that I've seen, so it's a bit different. There is I think a really good support system that people even in the UK subscribe to when they're going into voice acting, like Gravy for the Brain, for
Hmm.
instance. I'm yet to actually subscribe to them as well because I'm waiting for a couple of things, but yeah, because it's basically a resource just to even help you out with the business side of things as well. Certain things that, new starters won't even think about. There's probably one or two things I've missed, as well.
Hmm.
But yeah. Mm.
Very cool. So let's talk about what your plans are. What are some things that you want to do in voiceover? What are some big projects you want to work on in the next year?
You know what? I would love to work on more animation,
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
I mean, going for movies, kind of feels like a stretch. It's not something I feel like I want to focus on, because that's what lots of people would love to do. But even if I kind of get like a mini series, here and there, and get a mixture of maybe comical characters or even deep characters as
Hmm.
well, where I can just really stretch the acting chops. I
Right.
absolutely love that. Yeah, because I've been enjoying doing one or two very short student animations, as well to build up my portfolio. But yeah, yeah, but to kind of get it like more out there, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, because you have that good natural, like I said, British accent. You could do
Mm.
like, have you thought about doing a lot more commercial work as well? Or, I mean, is that something that
Yes.
kind of, I mean, because you just have that real low
Mm.
key. And what's great about you, and I notice this, and the way we've talked here, you have a lot on your plate, and
Mm.
you seem to strategize your day. And a lot of voice actors don't do that. They go full bore in, and next thing they're
Mm.
burnt out. How do you keep yourself not burnt out? Because you seem laid back, and I mean, unless you're pretty good hiding it, you're burnt out. You don't do it. How do you keep yourself level and like grounded, I should say?
I think honestly, by just really trying to stay grounded and just very aware of the other priorities in your personal life as well, just
Yeah.
not losing track of those. That kind of helps me, because my yeah my girlfriend of like over 3 years now, she kind of has this thing where she doesn't want me to be like fully burnt out, as
Hmm.
well. And she fully, yeah, she's great. She supports me, in this, and I think because she works actually about 2 hours away, so she's part there and she's part here. Um, when we do get to spend time together, I try not to let too much interfere with that,
Yeah.
as well. So that kind of gives me a bit of downtime every once in a while. So yeah, you've got to kind of be clever with it, and then when you kind of got a recording session or something like that, and she supports you, yeah.
Yeah, I give you a
Yeah.
shout out, but I've been on TikTok live with you. You're like, all right, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of my day. Just like low key, I'm like, that'd be nice if I could be that, just chill. You know what I mean? I think sometimes I'm high strung. I find myself be that way. But now we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna have fun with the audition challenge. I sent you a fun script in your chat. Let's have some fun with your New York accent. Yeah, I want to hear that good New York accent. I wrote a copy for you for a commercial here. And whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Coming this summer, your children will be amazed by the new toy on the market. It's Play-Doh, the all-new organic clay that is for kids of all ages. Play-Doh, get it now in your backyard.
Isn't it fun sometimes when we just open our minds and just jump into character? That's one thing that as voice actors we can do, but at the same time it's all about acting, right? It's all about acting. And you've been in this industry long enough now. What's some advice, my cliche question, what's some advice for the up and coming people who want to be in the voice acting? What advice would you give to them for really going into this full time?
Oh, absolutely. I would say, well, I've been saying this now to different people who've asked me, how do you get started in this? First of all, very important, you need to really get to know your own voice. You need to learn to actually like your own voice. You need to learn to accept your own voice, because people will hire you for what you naturally sound like.
Right.
It's not all about like doing crazy voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once you kind of start doing that, then you can really open yourself up. And if you you need to really start to think about like where your passion will lie. If it is in animation, or commercial or narration. I love doing narration pieces, for instance, even my natural voice. And when it comes to actually doing recordings, especially for animation, you got to focus on more than just the voice. Don't just focus on the voice, because when you get caught up in that, the performance kind of usually fails. It's not as strong. So what I like to do in those situations, and I encourage you to do it as well, is when you're about to do a recording, stand up, and you will even see in my videos, my social media, and all these characters I portrayed in these different collaborations, I really physicalize it. And after a few takes, I'm sweating,
Absolutely.
but that's when you've done a good job. I've had one time where my back was aching afterwards, but yeah, it's all good.
Absolutely. That's some great advice. And I remember one of my first coaches, she was I sent over an audition for a video game, and she was like, why weren't you moving around? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, you could tell you just stood there, and she didn't see me. She could tell I was stiff, and there was no emotion in my recording. I'm like, so what you just said is exactly the right thing. Just people who sit in chairs, you really can't move around and get into the performance. So do you do a good David Attenborough impression?
Oh, David Attenborough, yes. I mean,
you did narration
anyway.
And I was thinking, I should have asked you so let's hear one of those. That has to be, since I got a good British accent. What do you got for me?
Yeah, two of the greats are was it Sir Ian McKellen, and David Attenborough definitely is at the top, for one of them for me. Because David Attenborough, to kind of do him, I kind of get into this space where I'm using less lung capacity and keep it deep and husky, and it's almost like if he was here, he would say that I have to say, Hilton Productions, it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you today, speaking about voice acting deep in the South Indian rainforest. It's kind of like that, where he can kind of close something off, know. I still remember when I got into voice acting, and I ended up in this contest on
Mm-hmm.
Clubhouse, and I used him in this piece I wrote when I got to the semifinals,
Yeah.
and I still remember kind of finishing, kind of saying something like, "The voiceover journey continues for Christopher Woodworth. I am Sir David Attenborough of planet Earth. Until next time, goodbye."
Oh, that was perfect. Yeah, mine would be awful. I would be, I'm Sir David Attenborough. See, my accent comes off messed up, and that's when I stopped doing that. Yeah, but I always sound like Ross from Friends. If you ever saw that episode when he goes, he teaches class, hello, Rachel. Every time I see that accent,
like the London Cockney thing.
Yeah. So, and I know there's so many different types of British accents that it's like over here, but it has been so good having you on the podcast. We'll have to do this again, and I gotta say, it's a pleasure to watch you grow in this business and seeing you blow it up on TikTok and social media, and just in general having a good time. You have a great it's an infectious personality to watch. And I just gotta say, I appreciate you, and thanks so much for being on Behind the Audition podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. And feel free to check out my socials.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before you go, let's talk about where we can find you, because I usually have the end, but you can go ahead and let us, if there's somewhere that we can check you out, and we can go find you on there.
Yes, I will happily divert you to my Instagram and TikTok. It's the same name on there, at Chris Woodworth VO, all one word, Chris Woodworth VO. And on there you will see little experiments that I do from time to time to keep myself sharp, and all of the collaborations that I do. I have a bunch coming up, and one of them in particular I did involved Topher Ringo, who was a singing voice in Pixar's Turning Red. So he did a fantastic job. Yeah. So
wonderful. Well, Chris, you've been awesome. Thanks again for being on Beyond the Audition podcast. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Thank you.
For more information about Christopher Woodworth, or to book him for a project, go to chriswoodworthvo.com.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.